Good evening and welcome to Meet the Candidates, sponsored by the Dartmouth Rotary. Let's first pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And just a moment of silence to acknowledge all the things happening in the world and say some prayers about it. Thank you. You can be seated. Good evening and welcome to Meet the Candidates, sponsored by the Dartmouth Rotary. I'm Mark Medeiros, the host and chair of this event. First off, a huge thanks from myself and the club and the Rotary Club and our president, Richard Arruda. We're grateful for the candidates and the elected officials for the work they do in the community and for coming tonight and giving us a preview of what their plans are and their ambitions for the town. And a shout out to the DCTV for the great work they do. The Dartmouth Rotary doesn't just host events like this. We're about giving back to the community in forms of fundraisers that we hold. Speaking of which is our comedy night, I have to get this in, which is held in Rachel's on April 12th. If anyone can attend that from here, we'd love to have you. Tonight we're focusing on a hotly contested race. Select Board is the first seated here select board race, the school committee, the appraisers, and the trustees of the library. We'll hear from one group at a time and dive into some thoughtful questions we've gathered from you, the engaged community. Here's how it will work to keep us on track. There'll be a 3-minute intro to introduce themselves, and there'll be an opening question of, they're going to answer questions, 1.5 minutes to answer questions that Sarah, our question master, will ask them. These questions come from the community and have been assembled from people who have sent in questions to the Rotary and to our group and have, on our surveys, have sent in questions. So there'll be a wrap-up of 3 minutes after when the questions are done being answered. So right now seated up is the Select Board. And that is, of course, David Tattlebaum and Christopher O'Neill, who is David Tattlebaum is an unopposed Select Board, chairman of the Select Board. Christopher O'Neill is a candidate for Select Board race. And with that, I will let Sarah come up and ask the questions.
And being one of our vertically challenged residents, I will be standing on a box so that you can hear and see me. So there we go. I will be reading first, before we start the questions, a statement from one of the candidates, John Souza, who was unable to make the event tonight. My name is John V. Souza. I am announcing my candidacy for open position on the Dartmouth Select Board. As a lifelong resident of our beautiful town, I have a deep commitment and genuine interest in its future. My wife, Connie, and I reside at 674 Fisher Road. We have been married for 36 years and have 2 children and a son-in-law who resides in Dartmouth. We are also proud grandparents of 2 boys. Our children and I attended Dartmouth Public Schools. I'm currently retired, but worked for over 40 years in management positions for the electric utility industry in the engineering and construction field. Besides currently serving as an active and vocal member of the Finance Committee, I have extensive experience in volunteering in other aspects of town government. I've been an active town meeting member for over 45 years. I currently serve on the Community Preservation Committee and have done so for the past 18 years. I am elected an outspoken member of the Prudential Committee in Fire District Number 2. I proudly served on the Planning Board for 27 years, the Soils Board for 5 years, as well as numerous subcommittees such as the Master Plan Committee and the Open Space Committee. The broad expertise has allowed me to gain a well-rounded understanding of the problems facing the town. One of the biggest issues facing Dartmouth is the looming budget shortfall. My experience on the Finance Committee has given me the opportunity to learn about the challenges of providing vital services to town residents while controlling taxes. I have been an outspoken advocate for retaining our valued town employees, including those in our school system, by providing a package of wages and benefits that is both fair and competitive when compared to other similar communities. At the same time, I am committed to finding a workable solution that minimizes the impact on taxpayers. I also see a need for improved access to all town departments as well as improved customer service. For several years now, I have heard complaints from residents, employees, business people, engineers, contractors, and others that department has declined from the best town in the South Coast to becoming the worst and least friendly in respect to conducting business and customer interactions with town officials and employees. That needs to change. These issues and many others facing the town require individuals who truly listen and who are willing to genuinely work together to find solutions. I promise to be one of those individuals. During the many decades as an elected and appointed official in Dartmouth, I have established a good working relationship with many of the town employees and members of the town boards and committees. As your representative on the Select Board, I will build upon those relationships to foster cooperation among all town departments. Those who know me over the years recognize that I have been devoted to making Dartmouth a better place to live, work, play, and conduct business. I feel that the most valuable qualities that I can bring to the Select Board are common sense, integrity, objectivity, and detailed knowledge of the town and its inner workings. My agenda is simple: to serve the town I love, to bring no baggage or hidden agendas. I am not a town employee. I do not have any business interests in Dartmouth. You can be sure that I will never have to recuse myself from a vote. I'm proud to be a member of this community. I am committed to and have a proven track record and have the necessary skills and experience to serve as your select person. I would consider it an honor and a privilege to serve the town of Dartmouth on the Select Board and ask for your vote on April 2nd. Thank you for your time and consideration, John V. Souza. Now with that, I'll ask the other two candidates, well, David, if you don't mind, I know that you're not a candidate, you're our incumbent, but if you could make an opening statement to this.
Okay, thank you. Certainly thanks to the Rotary for conducting this event. It's important that people listen and find out what's going on. Why do I run? Why am I doing this? I'm retired. I had a long career, and on the surface I should be doing other things that are fun and active, and I do. But I have this driven sense that I like to help out people. I've had a good life here. I love my town in Dartmouth, my family, my kids, grandchildren. I have a lot to be grateful for. And the translation of all that comes to it's just this driven sense to do something for somebody else. I do work with Gifts to Give, a philanthropy factory. Many of you know how they are. And Jim Stevens, the founder, one of his real goals, aside from many other things, is to teach young kids at an early age what it means to give to somebody else. And that's his mission. And you see kids come in droves, and they're packing up stuff, they're separating things, they're doing puzzles, and they're learning what it is at an early age to help. And I guess I'm on the other end of that spectrum, but it's never too late. So it's a sense that that's why I do it. And it's over these years, it's been an incredible honor and a privilege, starting off with town meeting and finance committee, which seems to be a pretty relevant way to move on, because you do learn about the town government and structure and finances by being on a finance committee. I did that for about 6 years, and this is the finish of my 6th year and 2nd term in Select Board. And I was telling Chris that I look at this job as a Select Board as a baseball analogy. Catcher. I was a catcher, not a good one. My sons were much better than me. But there's two kinds of catchers that play baseball. One is that sits there and just kind of waits for the pitcher to throw it and kind of doesn't know what's going on. It just takes on whatever the pitcher throws at him, as opposed to the real catcher who goes on to play. And what does he do? He's in charge. He or she is in charge of the game, calls the shots, moves players around, is very active, and try to go out and do the extra over and above. There's services we need to do on a day-to-day basis here in town, but there's also the big picture, And I've tried my best to look at what we do here in the Select Board from that point of view. What is the big picture? What can we do to look down the road and deliver better services and have a better lifestyle and have clean water and whatever? So that's what I've tried to do, and I think that I will continue to do that. 10 seconds left? Wow. Okay. So I'm going to finish by saying it's an absolute honor and privilege to serve, and I thank you, and I, once again, thanks to the Rotary for inviting me to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next, we have Christopher O'Neill, who will be running for Frank Gracie's soon-to-be vacant seat. Please.
Thank you, Sarah. First of all, thank you all for being here. Thank the Rotary for putting this together, for John Souza for putting his name forward, to David for his work. And let me introduce myself. My name is Christopher O'Neill. I'm a candidate for the open seat on the Dartmouth Select Board. Before I tell you a little bit about myself, though, I'd like to just take a minute, thank DCTV for what they do day in and day out to keep us all up to date in the goings-on in town. It's an important job. I also like to thank Frank Gracie for his work on the Select Board over the last few years. We appreciate the work and wish you and your family all the best. My story begins as the youngest of 7 in the West End of New Bedford. I attended Catholic Grammar School and Bishopstang High School. While attending UMass Dartmouth, I started an advertising business in my home, moved it to the back office of my family insurance agency, Tomlinson and O'Neill in New Bedford. They say you don't choose to be in the insurance business. It chooses you, and that was definitely the case for me. In '87, I attained my broker's license, began to work with my brother and my father to build a business. In '97, my wife Christine and I built our home on Bakerville Road. We raised our 2 daughters and brought them through the Dartmouth school system, which we were very happy with their experience. And living in Dartmouth overall has just been outstanding. I've been myself pretty active over the years. I did my best as a coach to D-Gal soccer and softball in town. There'll be no championship rings. While my 2 girls were growing up, I've served on various boards such as the Chamber of Commerce. I was vice chair of the Greater New Bedford Workforce Investment Board. Served as president of the Greater New Bedford Independent Insurance Agents Association for many years. I think it was about a decade. I've also worked on various charities and campaigns, and in 2012 formed our family foundation, the Thomas and Catherine O'Neill Charitable Foundation. My siblings and I have been fortunate to donate over $50,000 in cash grants to the families dealing with pediatric burns and equipment to Shriners Children's Hospital in Boston, and also South Coast Health. The foundation was formed to honor the 490 victims of the Coconut Grove Fire in Boston in 1942. And I'm never going to make 30 seconds. My paternal grandparents and great-aunt all died in that particular fire. I've been on the Dartmouth Planning Board. I was appointed by the Select Board, became chair last year. I also work on the Charter Review Committee, and I'm a commissioner of SERPED. And I will explain later why I'm running. That's tough.
Well, as you know, we have timers. So Kathleen and Richard will be timing the event and providing the little visual cues for everybody. So with that, what I'll do is I'll start asking the questions. You'll have your time. They'll give you the prompts, and then you'll be good to go.
Okay, good.
All right. 1.5, yes, a minute and a half for, per candidate. All right, first question. We have heard complaints from people trying to do business in Dartmouth pertaining to opening a business, filing for permits, etc. And contractors have complained that permit fees are too high. What are your feelings, and how do you plan to address it? Dave?
Well, as far as the fees are concerned, we hadn't changed our fees in years and years and years, and we did a study to see how we measured up to other towns, and we did raise the fees, and it did raise a substantial amount of revenue for the town, but I think our fees are extremely reasonable. I also think that we've made a major effort over the last few years to do electronic sign-ups throughout the town, and I think we paid a bit of a price in terms of we lost a little bit of the communication skills that necessary to move it along. And I think that our most recent contract with our town administrator, we're going to work very hard with him to make sure that we do a better job to reach out to people and make it a little easier. Town hall is much quieter because people are doing things at home and not coming in. And I think that that is a good thing. On the other hand, I think we need to be a little bit more personable and to try to reach out better to compensate for the fact that the system is so much different.
Thank you. Chris?
Sarah, I actually got involved with the planning board because of those types of issues. I was working on a small development back in 2020 and went through the process as any applicant would. And I found some things that just didn't make sense to me, that needed to be worked on from the town's perspective. And I found it very difficult to get through some of the things that you have to get through in order to get some work done in the town. So my wife, as I always listen to my wife, she said to me, "Stop complaining, get involved and try and fix it." So that's what I did. And I asked to be appointed. John Souza actually was on the planning board and vacated, so that left an open seat, so I was able to be appointed by the select board. And to work on those fees is a very important thing. What I don't want is I don't want arbitrary fees. Those can be very difficult to peel back, if you will, when things are in better shape. So I have an issue with some of the fees that the DPW just installed. I think that the study may have been a little too quick in looking at other communities just to come up with a fee structure is really not the ultimate way to do it, in my opinion.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Chris, we'll actually start this question off with you, so we'll alternate. A taxpayer writes, "Why am I made to feel like I am imposing when I go to the town hall and they are doing me a favor?" What are your feelings on that, and how do you plan to address it?
Well, I mean, just as an individual taxpayer myself, you pay your taxes and you expect certain fees and certain customer service. I think just on the planning board and the work that we've done to address some of the service issues have been pretty successful. When you go into different departments in town, you want to be listened to and you want to be heard. I think, and I think the town struggled a little bit in that aspect, but it just takes time and it takes work and it takes communication from the administration, from these seats, in each department head to make sure that the customer, when they walk away, they feel like they were listened to. They feel that the fee that they're paying is, fair. And we all walk away a little bit better.
Okay, Dave?
I think that we have an incredible staff here in Town Hall, people who have been here many years, or some that are new, and it can be a challenging job at times. I think overall, I think we do a really good job. As I said before, I think that when we rolled out all these electronic sign-ups and changed the system, I think there was a protocol that really changed, and we can do a better job. But I, for one, am extremely proud of the kind of people we have in our town hall, the people, how they work, and it takes an incredible amount of volunteers also to run a government like this, a lot of dedicated people as well. So I no question in my mind that we can do a better job, and we're going to try to focus on that in terms of friendlier customer service. Being in the retail business myself, understand what it means. You can lose a customer quick, or you can gain a customer for a long time if you treat them properly. So we can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Dave, I'll start with you. There was a petition circulating for a review of the building department. However, right now we don't have a building commissioner. As a select board member, how will you work with the board to examine why the town cannot maintain consistency in that important position?
We have been in search for a new building commissioner since the day we lost the former commissioner, and there was an issue with that commissioner as well, and no need to go into that, but I'm told that we made some real progress. It's hard to hire people these days because they're in the driver's seat. People are jumping jobs quickly. There's a lot of offers that are really outstanding, that they can move from one town to another, and it happens. And I think we have we made a concerted effort to not only when we do hire, which I think is going to be very soon, that we also, as far as the building department is concerned, we are committed to putting together a consortium of people who are qualified to comment on some of the procedures in building and try to clean those up with the new building commissioner. We waited until the commission was going to be hired, and that with that case, because I think we need to do some work in cleaning up some of those issues for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, how about you?
I did have a chance to talk to David Silvera, who had brought some issues online when it came to the building department. And it's just a very difficult position to fill. I get that. There's no easy answer for a lot of these types of positions. But the one thing that I do appreciate that David did was he brought some issues forward from an applicant's perspective, and not just the problem, but some suggestions. And I think that's helpful for everybody. I think that's helpful for the select board to hear from a different perspective, from an applicant's perspective, and also, communicate, listen, maybe adapt some of those changes. So the next building commissioner that we have, hopefully soon, will understand exactly what type of response the citizens and the applicants are looking for, because everybody wants that particular seat to be successful, and we really need it to be successful. It's a very important position in town, and it goes to morale, it goes to making sure that the people in that department are listened to also, and it's you've just got to continue to try and push forward in a positive way and make good changes as you go along. Thank
you. Well, this is an interesting question that was submitted. Mayoral Town Council System. In 2023, 41.1% of the Dartmouth residents supporting moving to a mayor-town council structure. 29.4% wanted to maintain the current representative town meeting system. 15.6% supported keeping the current structure but providing the select board with more power, and 13.7% left the question blank. What is your feelings, pros or cons, about the mayoral town council system? Chris, I'm sorry.
I have an opinion on this just because of my position on the Charter Review Committee. As a planning board chair or member, I was asked to participate in that process and on that committee. And this question came up about appointments versus elections. And I kept coming back to the fact that after listening and trying to build consensus with the people that I talked to in town, that we're just not there yet. We're not there to all appointments. I voiced my dissent in that committee. I was heard. Everybody was very respectful. And there were others that thought that all those, the positions that you can actually make appointments to. School committee's out, I think it's the Housing Authority is out also. But they wanted to make all the others appointed, and I had a problem with that. I think we're the town's getting there. It's 33,407, it's not a small town. But I think we're going to need a little bit more time, from what I understand and what I'm hearing from the citizens.
Okay. Thank you. David?
Yeah, my sense is that there is absolutely no thirst at this time for a conversion of our government. It's almost impossible to legislate and get things done sometimes here because we are a large town, lots of people, with a tiny, small government structure, and we rely on well over 100 volunteers to run the government as well, which requires lots of time. And here I am, a volunteer, unpaid, and I'm making some pretty important decisions. And that's the way that it is. That's how town government works.
This position's unpaid?
Yes, it is. Is that? We can change that.
Does that change
okay,
your
thank
mind?
you. I knew I have another colleague. Okay. Town meeting. I get sick of people saying there's too many town meeting members that open up their envelope the day of the meeting, they read through. I don't believe that for one bit. People are dedicated to town meeting. They spend the money like it's their own. The problem is that they see it twice a year, and it's a hard process, and they try to do the best they can. My feeling is that maybe when the town hits 40,000 population, which I'm not sure that's going to happen too soon, there maybe be another consideration. But as it is, we got to do the best we can with the format we have, with the volunteers and the paid staff that we have to get the job done and and accept the fact that this is what we have. Period.
Okay. Thank you. All right, switching gears a little bit, there was a question submitted. Whatever happened to Brownfields, Bliss Corner, Crossman Street in regards to PCBs? Do the town residents feel that they're being updated? If not, how would you feel and address that particular issue? David, if you don't mind.
My turn?
Yes, please.
Well, that whole process is now being governed and administrated by the EPA. They do come up with some statistics, and some of the stuff they give us, we're not at liberty to communicate until we're told that we can. So I guess I sort of got to be careful here. But on the other hand, I know that there are at least 5 residence lots that have been cleaned up, and they are 100% brand new. There's more to follow. People are asking to be tested now more and more as well. This is far from being over. On the other hand, it was a pretty bleak day many years back when we met at the Dartmouth High School auditorium and didn't know that it felt like hell was freezing over because it was really scary. I think that the EPA has done a fantastic job cleaning up those sites. They're not done. There's more to be done. Who's going to pay and how it's going to happen, it has to be negotiated. But I think that the job they've done up till now, and there's more to be done, has really been quite admirable so far.
Great.
Yeah, I would only add that I think Chris Markey did a great job as a state rep to really take that bull by the horns, and not an easy bull to wrestle. But he stepped up and brought communication to that problem. The EPA, very happy to see just recently in the last couple of weeks, was really trying to stay in front of it, trying to make sure that the people that may be affected by this situation know what's going on and can still get tested, and really promoting that if you even have a question, you know what, bring it forward and just make sure. So I thought that was great to see, because certain times these things they fall off the headlines and they go away, and I'm glad to see that a government agency is still on top of it and still asking for the community to be involved, which is very encouraging.
Thank you. All right. Another question submitted, the master plan. Once updated by Massachusetts law, it appears that the Massachusetts plan doesn't get used as an important tool as it should, although it is available to all. How will you be more aggressive about using the town's master plan and related planning tools as a guide to policies and decision-making? Chris, if you don't mind.
It feels like I just put this master plan down. It was arduous. It was a process for sure. But I think what we did on the planning board, at least, was we tried to involve as many community people as we could, as many residents as we could. Some have different interests. Some have recreation interests, and they did get involved in those charrettes that we put together. And then, on the development side, we had some people put their 2 and 3 cents in, and it's a living document. It's a changing document. Everybody knows that, but sometimes it's just thrown on a shelf, unfortunately. I review it all the time. I have it right in front of my desk at home before I get on my planning board meetings, that and a couple of other binders, because you always reference that information. And I'm sure that people that are really involved in particular aspects of town governance, they will look at it. It has been updated. I thought we did a pretty good job. We asked all departments to be involved in that process. Hopefully they got their time in, but we can always make updates to it. But I think it's we just try and follow it as best we can, and if things change, we have to change with them.
Great. Thank you.
I look at the master plan much like we had a harbor management plan done years ago, and that had a danger of sitting on the shelf as well. But we put together a harbor management plan implementation committee, and we've really done some really good work on trying to clean up the harbor, clean up the water, look at the estuaries and the rivers in a way that we hadn't done before. To me, the master plan requires that same kind of effort. It's easy to put it on the shelf because it's simply required by law to do it. And I've tried to focus a lot on long-range planning, and I think that now that we've got this committee established, we look at it on a regular basis. Now, to integrate the master plan with that and to pick out the absolute most important issues to try to make that happen is what I think I'd like to, is what my goal is going to be for my term coming forward, to integrate that long-range plan with the master plan and come up with an integrated thing that also, what's it going to cost and how we're going to do it and what are the priorities.
Yeah, Sarah, let me just add on if I could. Yep. I think that it's a super idea because then it keeps that binder in front of everybody. Yep. You know, and we lose that you know, the off chance that it's going to be left on the shelf. And the work that David's done on the long-term planning is a very important thing. And I agree that if we tie those two together, it's going to be a great part of how we get through the next 10, 20, 30 years.
It's been an important team effort, the long-range planning.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
For continuity planning. Thank you. All right, so in address, part of the master plan, you know, is looking at planning and zoning. How proactive do you believe the planning board has been in updating and adapting zoning bylaws to meet the 21st century challenges? Specifically, can you discuss initiatives or reforms aimed at promoting affordable housing options or permitting accessory dwelling units such as in-law apartments and the like? These are changes that could significantly impact our senior residents, enabling them to remain in their homes amidst rising tax pressures. And how do you prioritize these considerations in your planning strategies, Chris, if you don't?
We actually have. We've been doing a lot of work with the planning board on just those items recently. The meeting even last night was a very important part of that. The ADUs, the additional dwelling units, is a very important thing, I think, for the town. It kind of sat in the background for a while. We have a part of this in the bylaw, and we need to look at it. We need to tweak it. We need to increase the amount of space available in some of these units. So right now we're looking at a bylaw change that would allow those units to go up to, right now, up to 1,000 square feet versus, I think it's 580, if I'm not mistaken. Assistance at the home for elderly people is a very important thing. To have a second bedroom for a caretaker is from what I understand, I did a Harvard webinar recently on this. It's a very important aspect of this. We're really working hard to change that bylaw to make sure that it's real, that we can use the space that we need, not 500 square feet. If it's not working, it's not working. Let's increase that and help people stay in their homes, maybe transfer out of a larger home into that apartment and get the kids back in Dartmouth and make it more affordable. There's much more to this, so I don't know if I can expound on it a little bit, but I'll let David go
Let's let Dave
first.
do, and then I'll give you time to
Thank you.
expand.
I'm not an expert on this. All I know is that I'm 100% in favor of trying to housing for increased housing opportunities across town, and we do have available places to do it. And I think that it's going to take a townwide effort, starting with the planning board, going to zoning, and of course ultimately to the select board. So I'm very much in favor, and I'm glad that last night's meeting was so productive because I think it's really important. And I'd be happy to listen to Chris talk about that.
Chris, please.
So
Keep it under 20 minutes.
I will try. Seven.
I ran for
So
president.
essentially, what I wanted to do was I wanted to take this part of the bylaw and I wanted to not just look at square footage and just, the number, but, why? Why are we doing this? Why do we need to look at this? Well, we've got a housing issue statewide, nationally. How do we address that? This is one way to drive some permits into town hall so we can increase, say you have a cape, we're going to put 1,000 square foot on it. It's not going to be detached unless you have a detached structure that was built prior to 2006, and you convert, say, a garage that was built in 1990. You add just the attached structure to the home up to 1,000 square feet. Doesn't have to be 1,000. It could be up to 1,000 now. And you'll have the room that you need as you get older, and if you do need some extra care. But what does it do? It drives permits into the building department. It increases the assessed value on those homes. It helps in the housing crunch that we have. And hopefully, if you do get some rent out of it, I'm not stopping anybody from charging a rent for a long-term rental in these, not short-term. We're very specific on that. But it would allow that homeowner some extra dollars in bring in some extra income if need be for a long-term rental. So the membership is behind it. I'm behind it 100%. I think the town needs it because we need the taxes too. So it'll help on the tax side when the assessments go up.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so speaking of housing, the Dartmouth housing plan for affordable housing has expired. Are you requesting CPC funds of $25,000 to hire a consultant? Dave, do you know?
Well, actually, the CPC meeting is tonight, which I was supposed to be at, so
Okay.
so I'm not here. So I assume that's on the article going forward. So should it be there, I would certainly be in support of it. Yeah.
Okay. Chris, do you have any opinions on that?
Well, what is it? I'm not fully aware of it, so you know what? I'll reserve
Okay.
comment on it. Yeah, thanks.
That's fair enough.
Yep.
All right, the senior, there's a program that is being proposed, or the Senior Tax Work-Off Program is a rewarding program, or not proposed, but is a rewarding program where eligible seniors can have temporary jobs with the town or school government to reduce their property taxes. What is your position on this, and how can it be enacted in Dartmouth?
Who presented that program?
I'm going to defer. Do we know anything? It's a state program.
State program?
Yes.
Brand new?
I believe so.
I have to say, I don't want to comment on something I'm not sure about, but it sounds
Okay.
like a good idea. So that's all I can say.
All right. Have you heard?
I haven't heard of it. There,
Good idea.
you have to think of some of the other issues that come into play when you bring in volunteers or work arrangements, can we say, for people in town. You've got a lot of issues there that you kind of have to weed through in order to make sure that they're
I guess
kept
I'm
safe.
old enough, I apply as well.
Yes,
Maybe I don't
absolutely,
get a job.
yes.
Okay.
But
Does
yeah,
this count?
you know, it just, I'm sure would require some additional study, but, you know, anything we can do to help that portion of our citizenship try and stay in town, I got to tell you, I would probably be very enthusiastic about learning more about it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Here's a good question. What are your thoughts of repurposing the old Dartmouth, the old police station instead of demolishing it? Actually, that will go with Chris first.
Yeah, the police station, I had an opportunity to meet with the people in the Historic Commission, listen to them. They had a few very good arguments about why we should keep that building going. I think, actually, this gentleman right here, and I said that at the meeting also, that I believe that Dave came up with probably the best compromise, which was to let the market decide exactly what the value of that building is. Can we save $500,000? Well, now it's probably $650,000 to tear that building down. You know, that's $650,000 in our pocket if we can try and engage some type of commercial or nonprofit organization to build on that. However, I did say in that meeting that I didn't think coming from the Historic Commission alone would do it any justice. I thought that it's really not in their purview to redevelop property, and I thought that if they incorporated maybe the housing authority in town to try and help them get through a process where that building could be transferred over to some type of commercial hand, guess what? We're saving $650,000. We may put it back on the tax roll, and as long as we can carve out access to the back for other entities, I think I'm all for it.
When the Historic Commission approached us about the issue, I learned early on that I think this is not, the Select Board had no right to make a decision on this. It was a town meeting decision to demolish the building, and even some of the historic members, commission members, said they voted for it as well as I did to tear it down. But things changed, and that's okay. And I think it's a town meeting issue, and I'm very hopeful that the marketplace will say it's a viable building, it can be converted, maybe even great housing. I've talked to a couple of developers who do this for a living, and they say there's real potential there. But the marketplace is going to tell us what's going to happen, and I would love to see it happen where we could end up with a building that's valuable to the town, and we don't have to tear it down. But that's what's going to happen. But we leave it to town meeting for discussion. It should be an interesting conversation for a town meeting as well. So
Okay.
We'll see.
Great. Dave, this one's for you as well. A recreation center.
Yes.
Are you in favor of building a recreation center? State your position, pros or cons, and explain how the operation of such a building would be funded.
I had really mixed feelings about it over the last few months, especially in the budget crisis period we're in. It's an expensive building. Nothing's cheap to build anymore. It's a metal building with not much there, and it's going to be expensive. And I thought maybe we should put this off. And then we had this unbelievable amount of interest not only from the Parks Board, but also from people who want to be involved in trying to build the building. I think there's a giant amount of interest. That meeting we had a while back where the seniors came forward and said, our COA is fine, give the kids something they can use, because that was the battle cry. And I think that there is a giant amount of interest. It's expensive, but the project is, at this point in time, is going forward, and I think it's going to serve a great function. And I think that financially we're looking at the long-term planning, what's going to cost, and I think that overall time it can be included and it can be paid for with a plan going down the road, which we have.
Yeah. Yeah, my only thought on it, Sarah, is that, you have needs and wants everywhere. You've got them in your family budget, you've got them in town also. The wants can really, really cost you a lot of money. But you know what, if people want to pay for it, then you got to get out of the way and let them pay for it. The question is, does the town want to pay for it? You're paying dollars, but you also, in this particular situation, I think you pay with the kids. And, you can't complain about, what are we doing with the youth, and they're on the street, and, in one hand, when you had an opportunity to do something with them. So it's, that one's going to be a little bit of a tug of war, I think, when the actual numbers come in, and we try and sit down and try and figure out exactly how we're going to pay for it, and whether we've got the stomach when that number comes forward. I'm looking very much, select board or not, to find out exactly what that cost will end up being, and whether we still have the stomach for it at that point. I'm going to keep an open mind, as I do on everything.
Great. Well, to tie into this, we've got a further question on what are your most important priorities for future capital expenditure for the town of Dartmouth, and how can we work together to continue planning for these priorities? Chris?
Well, David knows that list of the long-term planning is probably getting bigger by the day. So we do have a lot of high-ticket items that we need to look at. As far as priorities go, we've got to get back to basics, I think, first of all. You can't walk away from buildings after you build them and not maintain them. We've got maintenance bills that have been outstanding for quite a long time. So, but we also have contracts that we're going to have to look at also, and those will be expensive. It's really just a huge balancing act. You have to maintain the buildings that you build, and you have to build that into your budget to make sure that you can handle it down the road. They're going to be big numbers. We got to get back to the needs and wants list, like everybody does in their own house, and try and figure out exactly, what the needs are. Go down that list pretty hard and decide, make some pretty tough decisions. I've been in business for 37 years, and I'm used to making tough decisions. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what those price tags look like and making some hard choices.
Dave, how about yourself?
In all my years in town government, there's never really been, it frustrated me, the priority is setting about how we spend our money in the long term. We're busy trying to fund our schools this year and fund our roads and do this and that. One of the dangers of long-range planning is that you start talking about things going 20, 30, 40, and 50 years down the road, and people's first impulse is that the bulldozers are going to start tomorrow morning on building all those schools and all the bridges that we have to do. But that's really not the case. It's all about planning. It's all about borrowing. It's all about fees, and it's all about setting priorities. And we do have a list. Simple things like water and sewer. We have put off, unfortunately, some very extensive, important, long capital plans that need to be addressed. And water and sewer is the very top of the list. We've toured the place. We've looked all over. We see what has to be done. And setting priorities and how we spend that money is something we're working on and going forward, and we're going to try to educate. You will see something at town meeting presented talking about long-range planning and how we do it. We're going to keep out in front of you on a regular basis because it's scary, but it's important. And being totally transparent about it and how we do it is what this is all about. And I look forward to the challenge because that's exactly what it is.
Sure.
Sarah, just to tag on to that, David, I think, when you look at what the opportunities are for funding in the town, and when you look at projects like David mentioned, sewer and water, you can't play games with sewer and water. We all rely on it. Nobody cares how it happens. It just magically happens. But it's very expensive to get through. One of the issues that I have right now is reviewing the Bristol County ARPA funds budget, what money has been allocated to the town of Dartmouth, and what we've been able to draw down. In my opinion, you can't come with fees, whether they're arbitrary or not, and without drawing every single penny of that money down. These are federal funds that every town in Bristol County has access to. We've only drawn down, according to the report on their site, 15% of that money out of 5.7 million, I think it is. So I'd love to work with Tim Barber and Rob Almy and the people in the DPW to try and figure out, how can we help? How can we help get those applications in, get them approved, draw that money down, and get as much as we can out of our allocation of $5.7 or $5.4 million before we look at additional fees.
Chris, one of the questions that was submitted, you might be able to expound on this a little bit, is, what strategies do you suggest for the town of Dartmouth to work together in addressing the expected budget shortfalls for the fiscal year? I know you both kind of touched on it, but maybe you can expound on the strategies.
The strategy, one strategy that I brought to town, to the administration a couple of years ago was basically a ripoff from New Bedford and trying to use what New Bedford has done as far as communication goes. We talked about that earlier. New Bedford has a way to talk about the big ticket items in the city. They talk about the federal funding. They talk about the people in their departments by bringing them together at a meeting once a year. They bring in their department heads. They get to be introduced to the stakeholders in town. I want to do that in Dartmouth. I want to basically steal every idea that John Mitchell has and bring this town together at least once a year where we can talk about the big ticket items on David's list, the federal funding that we have that's available that we're not drawing down yet, that the public can be introduced to the department heads to put the name with the face. It goes to all of that. It goes to the communication, to be able to pick up the phone and talk to these people. So, having the Dartmouth stakeholders, business owners, come into that meeting, hopefully fund it for us, and be able to sit down and talk about the things that are, the pressures that are being brought down on the town, so they understand. People have to understand exactly what this group is up against. So that's one suggestion that I have to try and better the communication.
Great. I think we can call it creative borrowing versus
Yes.
stealing.
Okay.
There you go. Dave, any strategies that you would impart?
One of the things, almost 2/3 of our budget goes to the school department, and as it should, and it's never enough as far as I'm concerned because that's how important it is. And when we looked at the long-range planning, we asked the school department to put together their budget in November and December when they usually do it in January, February, because we needed to look at that number going forward and start doing our plans, because how can you make a plan when the largest budget in town is not available? So there's a collaboration and respect. When I first joined town meeting, it was a simple school budget number. The school department said, our budget is $35 million. Yes, and that was it. There was no, right now you can drill down to the tiniest part of expenditures in the town. There's been a revolution in the way we spend our money and the way we approach it as a team, as a town. It was really difficult in those days, and those are the days that the very first committee I was on was trying to support school department to get more money for the schools because there wasn't any, and we were turning off streetlights at that time. So the collaboration and the respect for these departments is there. It never is enough, and you have to just keep working at it. And I do think that the long-range plan will also, it's enabled us to get to the, we made a presentation last night on the health insurance. Because that came out of the long-range planning, because we absolutely have to address that issue as a town. So I think we're on the right track, but it's a lot of hard work and a lot of detail.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. All right, we often think that Dartmouth is immune to this, but during a recent point-in-time count, we know that there are at least 25 homeless people living in spaces not suitable for habitation. What do you plan to do to address this issue? Dave, if you don't mind taking this question first.
Sure. I've been active on that task force, but we've had some fantastic people from town, headed off by Dolores from our Youth Advocate Department, in trying to do the study to find out what we can do to help. This is a core issue for me personally, because the average person even says, well, Dartmouth doesn't have a homeless problem. Well, we do. We don't have an opioid problem. We do. And these are issues that I think that we're really trying to address. There's a lot of money to spend for opioid treatments the town is getting. We've got to do it in the right way to deliver treatment to people, as opposed to doing studies and trying to find solutions to our homeless problem here in town, but certainly in the surrounding cities in our country. It's the richest country in the world, and we have this kind of problem. It's just disgusting. And I think whatever we can do in our town to prioritize those issues and find is really good. And I think we have a lot of good people working on it. We got to continue to do that.
Thank you. Chris?
Sarah, the only thing that I can add is a regional approach to these types of problems. Working with Chris Markey, the state representative, working with Mark Montigny, who has been on this issue for many years. I think we need to approach it regionally. I know that New Bedford, and I know that Fairhaven and the other towns surrounding us need the help also. And the best way that we can handle some of these issues is by getting together and increasing communication, because it is not just a Dartmouth problem, for sure. We've got it. We've got the opioid crisis right in our back door, but we need help too. We need help understanding what the issue is, where the issues are, what the treatment options are, and how to approach the funding for some of these things out of a regional bucket of funds. We've got a better chance of bringing our delegation forward to the feds and to the state if we're all together.
Great. Thank you. This one will be our last question of the evening, and then I'll have you...
We're just getting started.
It felt like an hour just went by like that. Okay, this will be the last question, and then I'll allow you to do closing, and you can continue
finish?
your opening.
Okay.
All right. All right, with that, crossing guards. Where are we concerning crossing guards? What seems to be the issue, money is appropriated to... Money is appropriated. What is the tie-up? It's asked the question that was there. Dave, if you can.
Well, it's a kind of a hybrid problem, because the crossing guards are employed by the police, but they're at the schools, and we also have funded the positions, but nobody wants to do it. It's the way I think it happened. And the last guard who was there, who did a great job, found another job, and now we are with none. Luckily, Police Chief Brian Levesque has been on the job, they've studied each individual location. The way I understand it, in some schools they have a dire need for crossing guards, and others do not. Not as much, I should say. I know I've seen police cars and police officers at schools now every day trying to work out a solution. Why can't you put police officers there? Because they're paid so much more than a crossing guard. I think that I feel comfortable that our police chief and our superintendent are working together to try to solve that problem. But it's not an easy one because it's a position that goes unfilled. And I got myself a new yellow jacket, and I thought maybe I could give it a try myself, but I guess you got to practice.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have faith that they'll work out a solution because it certainly it can't go unsolved.
Yeah, no question about it. I think Chief Levesque has done an admirable job trying to deal with this issue. It's, I'll tell you, it's scary up on Slocum Road. And the parents are, they've got a very active parent group. I think the chief is trying to get at the issue from the right angles. And I miss seeing Jody. She was great. I wave every day, and she, right on top of it. And they really respect her. She said, "Don't move." You didn't move. But listen. We've just got to do it the best we can. I think the prioritization of the sites was that the chief did in that last meeting with you, Dave, was right, spot on. I think he's got a good bead on what needs to happen, but we just have to be more vigilant. We got to try and get people more active. We could use that annual forum as a means to thank volunteers and get them more active by giving them some awards at that function that I mentioned earlier. It goes a long way in trying to thank people for the work that they do.
I will say, Chris, just to add that the chief mentioned that one of his priorities will be to try to do the study to put traffic lights at Hawthorne and Slocum. Right. Which is a long time coming, and hopefully it won't be a long-term study that we can get it done because it's required. That would solve that problem pretty well.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get out of.
We need more lights on Slocum Road. Yeah. It would be good.
Very difficult to get out of that Hawthorne Street. Yeah.
Well, you heard it here. If anybody's interested in the crossing guard position, there is one available. All right, so with that, I'm going to ask our candidates for the evening to wrap up. We will then take a short break, and the school committee will then come up for their piece. Dave, if you don't mind, for your closing.
I hope that people listening got something out of this because there's a lot of important issues that we shared. Going forward for me, some of the priorities I'd like to make sure that we focus in on, and long-range planning certainly is that in that number one for me. Projects like the water and sewer treatment plant, clean water, the Paid Nairn Bridge, the rec center, our schools going out 20, 30, 40, and 50 years, Dias Landing, the DEP septic system requirements, Crapo Hill landfill, the Memorial Stadium, the COA future, as we're doing the feasibility study now. And I think that's a part of that long-range planning and how do we pay for it. And be as transparent as possible so that as we go forward, that we don't surprise people what we're trying to do, but we get feedback and end up with a plan that works. I also, I think our experience with the DEP we had last year with the septic systems focused to me the very top priority on composting. And we have 4 sites in town, 2 of which are creating major violations and creating major issues with our water. I've been in personal contact with the DEP director. He called me, and we talked about it, and we're trying to get some teeth into that whole situation so we can oversee those sites because it's possible that those sites could be as much of a problem as the septic systems were that the DEP was citing. So I think it's really, really important. Opioid money, how we spend it, what we do with it, critically important. There's people out there who need help, need therapy, need guidance, need a group, and that money should be spent directly for those purposes on a regional basis as well, because a lot of the treatment centers are in the city. We don't have them here, so we've reached out to the city of New Bedford to try to coordinate an effort to reach people and get treatment to them as opposed to doing ourselves because we're not capable. The DPW projects, how we handle our roads, how we clean our water, and all their capital improvements. There's some gigantic things going on over there, and I work directly with Rob Almy from who's a really fascinating guy. He's the chair of the board there, and we're trying our best to try to coordinate efforts to try to keep these projects going forward. What kind of schools do we really want? What do our schools require? We're in the lowest third of spending per child. We have one of the lowest tax rates in the area. Nobody wants to hear that. And what we get for bang for the buck from our schools is incredible what we spend now, but our kids deserve the best we can give, the most we can give, and I'm an advocate to do as much as we can on a regular basis, year in and year out. I have to say that, in closing, what an honor and a privilege it is to serve. I get a lot of calls, I get a lot of emails, I get a lot of texts. I answer every single one of them. And I pride myself in doing that because people deserve answers, and I reach out to people to do the same going forward. I thank you for your support that I've gotten over these years, and I look forward to at least another 3 years going forward to try to make our town that much better.
Thank you
and
very
working
much.
with people in town. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you. All right, Chris, if you could.
Sarah, I view running and being elected to the select board as an extension of my community work. I'd love the opportunity to help preserve the character of Dartmouth, to make sure that our thriving town continues to have our school system a major point of pride, and our first responders continue to be held in the highest regard, that we continue to look for slow, smart growth and a steady tax base, to buoy all of our property values and to keep pressure on spending, taxes, fees paid by all the residents and businesses in town. Lastly, I'll work with all the town boards and the administration to make sure that our employees are heard and that our services are streamlined and always have that they're always customer-centric. I respectfully ask for consideration on April 2nd for the open seat, not against David, on the open seat of the Select Board, and I thank you for your participation tonight. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. And we will take just a quick moment. Yes, applause, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, David. We will take just a quick moment, and I ask that Kyle Ross and Mary Beckwith please join us for the school committee portion.
2016.
Okay.
2016.
But
Okay, thank you very much, and welcome back. And now we go to the second group, the school questions for the school committee. And there are two candidates running for Shannon Jenkins' open seat. That's Kyle Ross and Mary Ann Beckworth. And we thank them for appearing tonight, and Sarah will continue with the questions.
Okay. All right. Why don't I start first? You can introduce yourselves. And again, Kathleen and Richard will be providing your timing just so that you can, get a good pace of what's going on. If you don't mind.
So are we supposed to do an opening statement
Yeah,
like
just
they
do
did?
it. Feel
Okay.
free to do your opening statement, Mary.
Great. Thank you, Kathleen. Hello, my name is Mary Beckwith, and I'm a candidate for school committee. I've never run for elected office before. When asked why I'm running, I simply state that I want to serve my community. My wife Jill and I moved here to Dartmouth almost 22 years ago, and in fact then we could not be married, and one of our first experiences here in Town Hall was to come and get our marriage license. And we were nervous about that, but we were treated so wonderfully and reassured. So at that time we knew that we wanted to become parents, and we chose Dartmouth in large part because of the fine school system. Our son Isaiah joined our family in 2006 and has attended Quinn School, the middle school, and hopefully in a few short months he will graduate from Dartmouth High School. We've come to love this community, and if elected, I want to contribute my experience and skills to our town. So why school committee? Well, I'm a lifelong educator with 40 years experience in higher education, primarily in the field of student affairs, and believe I can best contribute to this community as a school committee member. I am committed to public education, was educated in public schools from kindergarten through my master's degree. Have a bachelor's degree in communication studies and a master's degree in education, both from UMass Amherst. I've worked at UMass Dartmouth for the past 19 years in a variety of co-curricular roles, and I'm currently a sexual misconduct and discrimination investigator in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I believe that all children deserve an education that engages and inspires them. They also need to be prepared for the world ahead, be able to think critically and act accordingly, and become active participants in their communities and in our democracy. I want nothing less for our children in Dartmouth. I know that takes inspired and dedicated teachers, staff, and administrators, which we already have. When done right, education is magical, and I've experienced that magic both as a student and as a teacher. Being the parent of a son who's been educated in Dartmouth Public Schools, our family knows from personal experience that the Dartmouth school system is outstanding. Dartmouth Public Schools has engaged our family beyond the classroom as field trip moms, through Destination Imagination, and now boys tennis. I'm going to skip and come back maybe, so while I may not know all the specifics of the challenges ahead, I will say this: I will show up and I will be prepared. I will learn what I have to learn. I will seek first to understand the experience, concerns, and needs of teachers, administration, parents, and mostly our children. I will listen carefully, and I will do my research. I am trained to think critically, and when I express my opinion, it will be thoughtful and well-reasoned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Kyle, if you could open, please.
Good evening, all. I just want to take the opportunity to thank the Rotary Club for hosting this tonight. It's vital for our community members to be able to hear what we all have to say and why we're here. My name is Kyle Ross. I have resided in Dartmouth since 2011 with my wife and 3 children. I want to begin by thanking the many Dartmouth residents that have reached out in support of my pursuit to be elected to the Dartmouth School Committee. Over the years, I have participated in public service in many different ways. Since 2013, I have been a member of the Dartmouth Conservation Commission, where I served as vice chair for a period. Professionally, I have served in the public safety sector for almost 10 years, 6 of those in a leadership role. Most recently, in 2023, I was proud to have served as the parent representative on the Superintendent Search Committee for Dartmouth Public Schools. I feel it is important to share with you that out of a pool of over 20 applicants, I was chosen by the school committee to be the parent's voice. I am seeking your vote for this seat on the school committee as a father, coach, and neighbor. I am an involved parent who truly cares about the importance of equal and inclusive opportunities for all. I'm a proven leader with no personal agenda. I make decisions on facts, not feelings, and I seek to bring the community together for the betterment of our children. If elected to the school committee, I seek to view parents as partners. I believe that parents' opinions matter and should be heard in a public forum on a regular basis. As a father of a child born with Down syndrome, I have learned over the years that quality communication and cooperation between all stakeholders is truly vital to a student's overall success and alleviates parent stress and anxiety. I will support quality. I would strive to support policy to hire quality educators and effective administrators. I would support an equitable budget. I believe in an inclusive and equitable budget for all. I would ensure rigor in budget planning and full transparency in future funding decisions. If elected, I promise to be accountable. As a member of the school committee, I would be accountable to students, parents, caregivers, staff, and the community, not special interest groups. Lastly, I believe that the best leaders are transparent. Parents should have access and knowledge of all curriculum that is used with their children. I also believe in transparency to all community members with and without children in the district. I am willing to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, advocate for all, and serve our community with integrity and honesty. I respectfully ask for your vote on April 2nd.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kyle. Okay, we're going to start the round of questions. I'll start with Kyle, as he was the last one who opened the statement. How do you plan to address the evolving education needs of students in Dartmouth, especially in terms of integrating technology and digital learning tools into the curriculum? Kyle, if you could.
Well, obviously, if to really plan for that, I think we have to get the budget thing under control first. And right now, I think it's kind of 50-50 where the town feels on that, because obviously electronics, technology, and stuff like that costs money. I think as a community, we have to do some soul searching and see, do we want to fund the schools and give our children everything they deserve, or do we want to kind of keep the status quo? I'd also, like to really push to get our state delegation's opinion on this and why we are continuously funded so low throughout the state from Chapter 70 funding. I ran in 2016, and I don't think that number, where we fall around 295 out of 354,000 in the Commonwealth, has changed very much. At this point, I think it's kind of, I think the state needs to kind of buck up and help us all out a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Mary, please.
Could you read the question again for me,
Absolutely.
please, Sarah?
How do you plan to address the evolving educational needs of students in Dartmouth, especially in terms of integrating technology and digital learning tools into the curriculum?
So I think that evolving needs is absolutely true. Our learners are changing all the time, coming to us with new needs and things like that. But the question is really about technology. And it's very impressive to me the way that the Dartmouth school system utilizes technology. The Chromebooks, when you look at the TV studio at Dartmouth High, the smart boards that are in the elementary schools, those things are all great examples of how Dartmouth has addressed technology needs. So one of the things I would like to see is a more dynamic website, and I know that that's being worked on right now. So I'm looking forward to seeing what will be in terms of upgrading of the website.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Actually, I'm going to have you start this question. What strategies would you propose to maintain and improve the quality of education while ensuring fiscal responsibility in light of the budget cuts?
Sure. Well, first of all, I've attended the last 3 Dartmouth School Committee meetings, and I have been incredibly impressed by how creative the school administration has been, Mr. Kiley has been, with the school committee and being creative with the budget. So I think, like Kyle said, it really is all about the allocation of monies. And then I trust that our school administration, with input from our teachers and the staff, that they can come up with strategies that can address their needs, as long as, again, we are looking at the budgetary concerns.
Kyle?
Yeah, just kind of try and build on what Mary said a little bit. Like she said, I've viewed a lot of the recent meetings, and I attended the family forum last week, and Mr. Kiley really does a phenomenal job at breaking those numbers down. I mean, you could tell what a pencil costs. But going forward, I think that we would have to be careful about using temporary monies. This year, it did save us having the school choice funds, but I think the use of the ESSER funds or the COVID money, I might be saying that wrong, to fund permanent positions was kind of a bad move on our part, because those are reoccurring funds now that can't be funded when the COVID money expires at the end of this year. And I think going forward, we have to look to hire the best people we can, and we really have to be, as a school committee, we have to be transparent to the community, because if one day that it does come that we have to propose a 2.5 override, we have to be able to sell it to them and explain to the community why. I mean, I personally, I don't think anybody wants to see their taxes go up, but as a school committee, we have to sell it, and we have to be transparent to the finance committee, the select board, and most importantly, the community. You have to be transparent to everybody.
Thank you. All right, serious question. We can't turn on the TV without knowing about mental health issues in this country. What is your stance on mental health support within our schools, and how do you propose to enhance resources and support systems for students struggling with mental health issues? Kyle, if you could take that one first.
Sure. Well, personally, professionally, I work in the field of corrections, and I deal with many young kids coming through the door at 18 years old with severe mental health issues all the time. And I feel like it starts at a young age, and we're missing out on a lot. We're missing a lot, and we really should have more access to mental health in the schools. I don't know if we need a licensed social worker on site all the time, but we need to be looking at our kids in the school system, inquiring what's going on, because mental illness is a serious thing that's going on in our society right now, and only if we step in and take notice to what's going on will we be able to attain the goal to fix it.
Mary?
Yeah, this is an increasingly complex world, and we're all recovering from the trauma of the recent pandemic. and the effect that that has had on children in terms of their mental health, their ability to socialize, their ability to problem solve, the anxiety that they experience. And so I think early detection is one of the really key things with children, and I think there's a really good infrastructure built up in the school system right now. But one of the things that I might propose is something called mental health first aid for teachers, all teachers. And it's a training program where folks are trained not to do counseling, but to detect issues, to be able to identify them early on, and then to refer to the appropriate folks in the broader mental health structure in our schools. 30, okay. I see it go up and I want to stop. So.
He's the rule follower.
I'm a rule follower. That is absolutely true.
We got a few things, we're gonna let you talk.
So I just think mental health is a collaboration. It's not in, just the purview of the folks that have the titles or the training, because we can all have training to assist our children with their mental health.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Actually, I'll ask you to take this question first as well. How do you plan to foster a more inclusive environment in Dartmouth schools that supports diversity and addresses issues of racial and social inequality?
Well, in some ways, that's kind of my wheelhouse. I've worked in social justice education almost my entire career, and so it is something I absolutely value. So one of the things that I would say is that clearly our learners are becoming more diverse, visually, and maybe not so visually, in ways that you wouldn't necessarily see. And so one of the things that I've been really impressed with is the 5 C's that the superintendent has proposed. I think that issues of social justice, diversity, need to be infused throughout a curriculum. It shouldn't be the class. It needs to be infused. How history gets taught, how science gets taught, what authors are used in English classes. Those kinds of things have to be addressed, and it needs to be infused throughout the curriculum so that diversity is not something on the side.
Thank you. Kyle?
As a parent of a child born with a significant disability, I've spent the last 11 years of his life fighting for diversity, equity, and inclusion. But overall, I just feel it's extremely important for all community members to feel included. As a lifetime fighter of these principles, I believe that sometimes these policies are used in kind of a divisive manner, and if some parents don't agree with some of the curriculum, I think that they should have the opportunity to have their kids maybe not participate in that. I think when this occurs, honestly, we're kind of taking a step back in progress, because sometimes if we don't allow people to, but if we push certain things upon people, we will tend to divide groups. And really, we should be looking just to bring everybody together under one roof, and everybody should feel included. And sometimes some of these policies, they do divide.
All right, Kyle, if you don't mind, this next question will start with you. Can you discuss your views on parent and community involvement in school decision-making process? How do you plan to improve engagement and transparency within the community?
That's probably like my number one issue. I believe that parents should be viewed as partners. Their opinions should be heard, in a public forum at least once a month. The superintendent forum was great. I suggested that maybe that take place quarterly at the comments after. I would look to possibly include a open forum at one of the school committees a month where you don't have to be on the agenda to speak. I understand that there's time frames and stuff like that, but I've sat in a lot of Conservation Commission meetings where everybody in that room was heard, and we sat here till 11 o'clock at night. Parents just want to be heard. I think sometimes they feel that the bureaucracy is so big in the public school. First you gotta call the teacher if you have an issue, then you gotta call the principal, and then before you get any action, you're almost all the way up to the superintendent, and it takes time, and it's frustrating, and people have lives. And they're busy, they have other children. If there's an issue, they should be able to voice it, and it should be on a more regular basis.
Great. Mary, please.
I think parent involvement starts with a lot of communication from the schools and from the administration. And I, like Kyle, I attended the superintendent's forum last week, and I hope to see a lot more things like that. I feel like we've gotten a lot of communication, more so since she's been in her position. But I'm appreciative of all the communication that we do get, both in writing and phone calls sometimes. I will admit to getting phone calls from teachers or principals from time to time. And so I think that one of the things that I would say is, one of the things that I have found is when you're talking with school officials, they use a lot of jargon that you have to ask them. And so the one thing that I would ask is that folks, when they're communicating with parents, is to not use acronyms and to not use so much jargon when they're explaining stuff. But I firmly believe parents should be involved, should be welcome in the classrooms. I feel like the Dartmouth school system has really engaged our family in the community. And I think taking advantage of attendance at events and taking advantage to get to know various folks who are administering our schools is really important. And so it needs to be kind of a two-way street.
Thank you. All right, this next question is a bit of a Sophie's choice. How do you propose to balance the need for increased funding for schools with financial pressures on Dartmouth's elderly population, especially considering the potential for rising taxes that may make it difficult for seniors to afford their living expenses? Mary?
Me first.
Yes, please.
I am soon to be those elderly people. So I just want to put that out there. I think that one of the things, I recently attended a webinar about overrides, Proposition 2.5 overrides, and I'm not saying I'm a proponent of that at the moment, but I know that the state makes monies available to folks who cannot meet the increases in taxes, and that there's ways to apply for those funds. So I just want to say that. I agree with what Kyle said. While I think they were very creative about next year's budget, FY25, that was on the back of one-time monies and federal monies that are running out. And you can't continue to do that. And so there's some hard decisions ahead. And the school committee is going to need to collaborate with the town. And like Kyle said, we're going to need to be very transparent about what the needs are and how we think we need to get there. And it's not easy. It's not easy. I think I said last week, you can't bake sale your way out of these financial constraints and challenges.
Thank you. Kyle?
I don't think it's just the possibility of a 2.5 override isn't just a strain on elderly people. One of the first phone calls I got when I announced that I was running was from a parent that I coached Dartmouth youth football with. And he made it very clear. He said, you know, obviously I'll support your, I'll sign your papers, but, you know, I don't know if I can put a sign out front if you come right out for over a 2.5 override. And, you know, I explained to him that, you know, it may come to that down the road and it's a possibility, but it's not just the elderly that are feeling this pinch. I mean, he described it, you know, I don't think I can afford the extra $75 a month. That takes away from this I do with my kids or baseball or soccer, whatever. And I think that just going forward, the school committee really needs to be transparent on what's going on with the budget. They need to be transparent to the finance committee. And we gotta knock down the state delegation, and we need them to lobby up on Beacon Hill for us, because there's no reason why we should be funded where we are.
I'm going to skip to one of the questions that's there because it kind of ties in on that one-time money. What is your view on school choice, Kyle?
I think school choice is a good thing. It's unfortunate that in 2019, Representative Bruce Tarr, or State Senator, I'm not sure which one, he did propose an increase in that $5,000 fund, $5,000 payment that comes to the district. They wanted to increase it to about $7,500 compared to that $18,000 a year cost that it actually cost to educate that child. That did not pass, so we're still at that $5,000 mark. But I think it's good. It brings in students from other communities, and it also allows us to build that savings plan of having some money for emergency situations like this down the road. And no, I think it's a good thing. I think it should continue, and it works.
Mary?
I am also pro-school choice. I think when we bring learners, children from other communities, it only enriches the educational experience for all. And they bring different life experiences, different, perhaps different viewpoints, and I think that is what education's all about. I think also it allows some of our children, our residents of Dartmouth, to choose to go someplace else if that's what they think is best for them. And so I think it's just a win-win all around.
Okay, thank you. Mary, I'll have you start. What are your views on the literacy challenges students face, and how would you address them?
Literacy, I think, well, I think that you know, I think our schools do a really good job of teaching literacy, and in a very intentional way that, you know, going from the learning to read to reading to learn in that 3rd to 4th grade kind of arena. So I'm sure there are challenges with reading, and that there are some students that have specific needs where they need supports, and maybe some assistive technology to be able to get the content that they need. But I think it's something Dartmouth schools do very well. I can recall my son being, I think it was in 2nd or 3rd grade, and having, you know, making these notes on sticky notes as he was reading a book. And that was so impressive and so new to me, that was something that he was being taught at that age, to notate and to highlight. So I think it's something we do very well.
Thank you. Kyle, please.
I mean, I have to agree with Ms. Beckwith on that. I really think it depends on the child, because, you know, my middle son, he reads very well. And then my youngest son, who is only just a year younger than him, he doesn't read as well. And one's kindergarten, one's in first grade. And I just think it depends on the child. I think, you know, in the pre-K, the school over at the Cushman, you know, maybe we just gotta really screen for the kids that need help and aid those kids and try and bring them along year to year and make sure that they're not left behind.
Okay, thank you. Along those same lines, I'm going to ask the question about your views on math and science instruction, particularly in the middle and high school. Kyle, do you have any opinions, or I know you don't have a high schooler yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a high schooler, but I would imagine that Dartmouth, they graduate some students that go to some nice colleges every year. So I can only imagine that the math and science instruction is pretty good. Actually, I had a person I work with reach out to me that is from Dartmouth, and he mentioned that his daughter was in the robotics club. So if that stuff's going on there, the pushing towards engineering and math and all that, it pushes towards the medical field and stuff like that, I would assume that the middle and high school are doing a pretty good job at educating and creating curiosity for science and math.
I just have to tell this very quick story. I had a meeting at Dartmouth High School this morning, and the security guard grabbed a student who was walking in to escort me to my meeting because I didn't know where I was going. So I chatted with him a little bit, and he said, I've got a couple tests today. I said, oh, really, and what? He said, well, this morning I have calculus, and this afternoon I have organic chemistry. And so to think that, you know, that we have the subject matter, and we have very challenging AP courses at the high school level as well. But also impressed at the range of options in both math and science at the high school. For instance, my son was able to take 2 aquaculture courses and 1 marine science course, and he loved those. He was out in Upon-a-Gansett with waders on, and so the range of courses throughout the Dartmouth High School curriculum are great, but I think the math and science are particularly challenging.
Right.
And wide-ranging.
All right. In your opinion, and Mary, if we could start with you, what are the top needs and budget priorities for the Dartmouth school system?
Well, that's something that I would be learning, and it is something that I have had some insight into from having attended the last few meetings, and that were very budgetary focused. So I think that challenging this one-time money thing is going to be the big challenge in the very near future. We're talking FY26, and so there's going to have to be some creativity, and again, we have to talk about it as investment as opposed to cost, because we are investing in our children, in our future, in our town, and so I think that's, you know, that we cannot start to limit instructors, larger class sizes, those kinds of things all concern me, because again, we do things very, very well already.
Okay, thank you, Kyle.
You know, just like Mary, I'd be new to this as well, but I do believe that some top priorities would be to ensure that, you know, we have low class sizes. I know the DeMello, they're proposing to go K through 5 over there for this coming year and move the Cushman kindergarten classes over there. And they talk about average class size of 21. I've already had people reach out to me. They already feel that that's not acceptable, and it may create an environment that their children may not learn well in. And but looking forward, I also think that we should look to increase our special education services here in town. I don't have the number in front of me, but we pay an awful lot of money out of district to send children out of district because we can't provide the services here. Whether we don't have I don't know if we don't have the facilities or we just don't have the staff to provide those services. And I think looking down the road, I'd like to. When I was part of the superintendent hiring committee, the high school principal talked an awful lot about maybe some vocational classes and stuff like that to give those kids that may not be on the college path to preparation and a career path to do something different if they don't elect to go to New Bedford Folk.
Thank you. We have a lot of questions. Unfortunately, time is up. This will be our last question of the evening, and then you'll be able to do a wrap-up. Another hot-button issue in the country, and even locally, what is your stance on banning books? Kyle.
I don't believe that books should be banned. I think there's a lot of good content out there. I just honestly think as a parent, and I know a lot of other parents feel this way, that they should be age and content appropriate. I think as parents, we need to remember that we have the right to contact the schools, the school staff, and request. If you feel that your child doesn't want to or shouldn't view certain material, then you have the right to request that because it doesn't agree with your values or whatever. I think where the school committee should step in if, or the school administrators, if they fail to act and school staff are not honoring those requests, then it should be looked into. And it should be looked into as to why those requests aren't being honored, because parents do have the right for that.
Okay, Mary.
I trust school librarians to select books that are age appropriate in their libraries from K through 12. So I am not of the mind to ban any books. I do believe that parents can see what their children are reading and determine whether or not it's appropriate for their family. But I don't believe in taking books away from other families, other children, who may benefit from those books, even if there's their book that someone else objects to.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, we'll have the candidates do their closing argument. Kyle, I'll start with you since Mary opened up.
Sure. So basically, I'm a parent of three. It ranged from kindergarten to 5th grade. My oldest with Down syndrome would be going to the middle school next year. I really just running for this seat on the school committee because I got skin in the game for probably the next 20 years. I want to see everybody in the community come together. I coach youth football, youth baseball. I'm out there with the kids every day, and I feel that with my professional experience, my education, and my experience so far in town government and public service, that I can bring a lot to the community, and I really feel that I'm a leader that can bring both groups together, both sides of the aisle, and so we can work together to actually get things funded and give our children the best experience they can and be prepared for their life and their career.
Thank you. Mary.
First, I want to thank the Rotary Club for inviting us tonight, and I want to applaud everyone who is running for office. This is my first time. It is daunting. It's hard to put yourself out there. So I am grateful for the friendly faces in the audience, and I'm grateful for everybody who came out tonight, because I know you have probably a number of other things that you could be doing and you probably should be doing. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to us tonight. As I said, I have not run for office before. I am, and I know that there are challenges that the Dartmouth schools will face in the years ahead. Financial difficulties, as we know, the aging buildings. I know we're facing a nationwide shortage of teachers. So there's lots of challenges ahead. But with the town's support, I'm ready to and willing to step up and serve. I live by the motto that the most important thing you can be is to be someone others can count on. And so our children deserve that. You deserve that in your school committee. This town deserves that. I am someone you can count on, and I won't let you down if I'm fortunate enough to earn your vote on April 2nd. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to both the candidates, Kyle and Mary. Appreciate you being here.
Me too.
Luck to both of you. All right,
Thank you.
The next one is for assessor. We're going to take just a quick second. There are no questions because one of the candidates is not here. So we will read some statements and
We're
return.
going to do it again next week.
Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to introduce the assessors. We have Christopher Nunes, the incumbent running for re-election, could not attend tonight due to a family emergency. Curtis Nunes, I'm sorry. Sarah will read the statement, Curtis's statement. But we do have Al Lay right up front. He's going to read a statement. We're going to not take questions because we have just Al here today and it wouldn't be fair. So with that, Al, you can read just your opening statement.
You want?
I'll read it. That's
Yeah, why
fine.
don't you do
Okay.
Eric's
Yeah,
first?
I'll read Curtis's first. Yeah, we didn't want to grill you. That would be unfair.
There you go.
There we go. All right. My name is Curtis Nunes, and I'm running for re-election for my second year, three-year term on Board of Assessors. I'm proud to say that my family has been in Dartmouth for over 100 years, with my grandparents settling here in the early 1900s. My grandfather opened a grocery store in Bliss Corner called Buttercow Market in 1950, and he listed the foyers of both Potter and DeMello schools for being on the building committee. My children were the fourth generation of my family to graduate from Dartmouth High School, and it will always be my home. I've never been political in life, but when you want to speak up and complain about what's going on around town and someone says there's only one way to change things, you get involved. That's when I started my several terms as town meeting member. I eventually got the courage to speak up about issues I felt strongly about. I love the beach, and when it was proposed a few years back that we change the ecosystem at Round Hill and possibly disrupt the enjoyment of this wonderful asset, it was time to speak up. I did some research, talked to town officials, went to the site, visited with conservation, state officials, and other residents. The next step was going to a meeting, speaking up with others, and the vote went 3-2 our way, and the beach was safe. It was a good feeling to experience the power of the public. When I went to vote with my wife in April of 2021, we noticed the ballot said Board of Assessors, vote for one with no names listed. I told my wife to write my name for the position and later did the same with friends and Facebook and won the election. I did this for 2 reasons. I thought it was a shame that no one was running, and I thought with my extensive real estate background, I could bring some value to the department that was all about valuation of property, my specialty. In the qualification department, I've lived in Dartmouth for 60 years. I've been buying and selling property in the area since 1983. I own and operate a real estate company in town. I've literally looked at every property that is sold in Dartmouth since 2002, and I believe that I am best qualified to help place fair values on approximately 15,000 properties in town, and that is the #1 function of this board. In my first year on this board, I tried to mostly listen and learn. In my second year, I became more engaged and more active member, as with progression in town meeting member. This past year, I have begun to create some initiatives and started to really dig into the departments to help out. In closing, I would really appreciate your support on April 2nd to serve for the town for another 3 years and continue some things I have started to implement. And if elected, I plan for the first time in decades, to put a plan together to raise the senior tax exemption amount as well as the income limits that are attached to it. This will also raise the tax exemptions for the blind and for our veterans. On this board, I feel some days I have to speak up and fight for the town, and other days the residents and these groups need our help. I apologize I couldn't be there to answer questions, but I am available anytime at the contact information below, before or after the election, win or lose. This is my town and I want to help. Should I give the contact? All right, here we go. Curtis Nunes, 508-951-7117, curtis.nunes@gmail.com. Thank you. All right, Al, please, can I call you Al?
Yes, please.
All right, there you go. Al, if you could please do your opening comments. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Rotary Club for holding this forum, and a special thanks to Mark. This is my first opportunity to serve our community and first type of forum, and Mark was very helpful. He gave me some good advice, and I really appreciated the email exchange. One of the most important votes on the Town of Dartmouth April 2nd ballot is the Board of Assessors. Yes, the Board of Assessors. My name is Albert Lay, and I'm running for a seat on the board. The board supports an essential financial function. When executing the fiduciary duty for the town, I believe it is incumbent upon the board to ensure property owners are fairly treated and the valuation processes are transparent. This is why I, Albert Lay, am asking you for your vote on April 2nd. My wife, Nancy, and I purchased a home in Dartmouth in 2003. We are both retired. We both serve as town meeting members and have done so for several years. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in engineering, and I worked 39 years in the insurance industry. The Commissioner of Revenue requires newly elected or appointed assessors to complete a training course and receive a certificate of completion. I have both the knowledge and background required to successfully pass this course. Property inspections are required by the Department of Revenue at least once every 10 years. This 10-year inspection is currently in process. Once completed, the board will reassess our properties and adjust the valuations accordingly. With my knowledge of data analysis, I am the right candidate to take advantage of this opportunity and be an advocate for property owners. Property owners should be able to understand their property assessment and easily compare it to comparable properties in town. Should I be elected, I will encourage the board to make the following changes. First, broadcast board meetings on Dartmouth Community TV. Second, invite property owners to present their abatement case to the board. Third, provide property data in a format where property owners can easily compare their property with similar properties in town. And fourth, facilitate the prompt hiring of a permanent full-time administrator of assessing, an office that has been vacant for over 2 years. The Board of Assessors is critical to town operations. It is especially important that this essential financial service functions at the highest level. I think we can do better. On April 2nd, a vote for Albert Lay is a vote for property owner advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. Albert, with that, we will just, you're all set. No questions at this time, and we will ask that our those for the library trustees, please come up. Linda Garibaldi, Maya, and Marianne, and you can introduce them.
Thank you and welcome back. We have the Library Board of Trustees seated up, and I will introduce them. Linda Garibaldi, Maya Wolfson, and Marianne Cole are running for the Library Trustees. Now we'll have Sarah.
Okay. This is our last session of the evening, and we have a couple of questions, again, round robin. So we'll start. All right, at this time, Linda, if you could please take this. How will you work with the director and other committee members to spread the word about the achievements and potentialities of both branches of our library?
Sarah.
Yes. 3 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, the opening, that's right. My apologies. It's been a long evening, sorry. Start with Linda.
That's
My
okay.
apologies.
No problem. Thank you. I'm Linda Garibaldi. I am running for a 3-year term on the Board of Library Trustees. I have had the privilege of already serving for about 7 months as a library trustee. Last fall, the selectmen appointed me to fill a vacant term, which then expires at this election time. It's been a very interesting 7 months. I have enjoyed it, and I have learned a lot and have a lot left to learn. I've been involved with libraries for as long as I can remember. Dartmouth's library is exceptionally good, as is their staff. I am enormously impressed with their professionalism and their enthusiasm for what they do and how they do it, and that includes our new director also. I have lived in Dartmouth for 21 years. I am a retired legal services attorney. My husband and I chose to live here, and we chose to stay here after we retired. and we both felt keenly that we wanted to give back to our community. I have been fortunate enough to volunteer over the years in several areas, including as a town meeting representative. I also enjoyed serving on the search committee last year for our new library director. I'm a past president of the Friends of the Dartmouth Libraries, where I served as an active board member for many years. During that time, I also learned a lot about the libraries. I was able to work with the Friends to help provide needed tangible support for both branches, and equally important, I believe, to bring more awareness to the community of the invaluable resources that are accessible to everyone in our town. I hope you can tell I am a strong advocate for libraries, for public libraries. I also have 8 wonderful grown children and 12 beautiful grandchildren, and I have worked very hard to instill in them a lifelong love of libraries, to support them, to use them, to protect them. Both of our town's library branches are prime examples of inclusive community destinations. They promote opportunities for lifelong learning and growth for all ages through impartial access to a broad range of materials. Again, I'm very proud of the Dartmouth Library and its excellent staff. It is a true treasure, and I hope to have the opportunity to continue to officially watch over it and guide it in the future. So thank you very much. And thank you to the Rotary for doing this, for inviting us. It's
Thank you,
excellent.
Linda. Again, my apologies. Okay. Maya, if we could have you please, your opening statement.
Well, I first want to just thank the Rotary Club for doing this. And I also want to thank everyone in the audience who has, I think we're 2 hours in now, and you're still here and listening to us. I'm sure there's lots you could be doing with your evening, so thank you. So, hi, I'm Maya Wolfson. I'm running for the 3-year Library Trustee Board position and hope to garner your support. The Dartmouth Library is a bedrock of our community for education, learning, and reading. It is a valuable public space that provides vital resources and services to our community, catering to all ages with varying interests across our community. It provides a diverse range of written and electronic materials, as well as a space to access programs and speakers and host local groups. I want to ensure that the Dartmouth Library continues to provide and improve upon these offerings. And it is just as relevant for my young daughter as libraries have been to me throughout my life. As a library trustee, I would work collaboratively to achieve these goals. I believe my professional background and experience in operations, strategic planning, and budgeting provide me with the skill set that will be invaluable to the library trustees. I will help keep the library functioning at the highest level. I will be able to successfully collaborate with fellow trustees, the library director, the Friends of the Library, and Dartmouth residents to ensure that the vision and presence of our library not only continues to be invaluable, but also evolves and expands with the needs of our community. I will be able to dive into and help make sure a solid budget is in place. Quickly on my background, for over a decade, I was a program manager at a top-tier law firm in New York City. I ran a department as well as worked closely with partners and leaders across the firm to achieve collective goals. I have a BA from Northwestern University and an MBA from Zicklin School of Business, Baruch College. If elected to be library trustee, I would be a dedicated member who learns from current trustees, keeps an open mind, and helps implement strategic plans. I would also not shy away from learning initiatives when appropriate. More broadly, I want to be involved in and give back to the Dartmouth community. I feel I can achieve this by being a library trustee and helping ensure the continued success of our library system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Ann, please.
Hi, my name is Mary Ann Cole. I am a candidate for the position of the trustees for the Free Public Libraries. A little bit about myself. I'm a graduate of Dartmouth School System and also graduated from UMass Dartmouth. Back in the day, it was Southeastern Massachusetts University. I've lived in Dartmouth my whole life, and I am the mother of 3 adult children who have also gone through the whole Dartmouth school system. When my children were young, they attended the story time at the libraries, and also when they were school age, they went to the Gidley School. They used to walk across the school street to the library, and always enjoyed that time picking out their books. They also participated in the library summer programs, the reading program, and as well as the programs at the end of the year, and all the programs the library had, and they always look forward to those. As a member of the trustee board, I would like to see that other children have the same opportunities to enjoy the services that the library offers. Granted, the way the world has changed since my children's involvement in the libraries, technology and the ways information is accessed is quite different. But still, the library offers many programs and services to help patrons of all ages through meetings, programs, the speakers. We need to be ready to meet all the needs of the community, whether it's be technology updates, innovative programs, or equipment accessible for patrons. As a trustee, I would like to see what resources, services, and programs patrons would like to see and implement them as part of the process to make those accessible. I ask for your consideration for vote on April 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Ann, I gave you the preview of the question just a few moments ago, but I'm going to ask you to start it off. How you work with the directors and other committee members to spread the word about the achievements and potentialities of both branches of our library?
Having not been in any kind of public office, I view myself as a patron, so that I would see it from that perspective. And I would like to just get those opinions of those people, to bring it forward, and to just see what people would like, and to make those possible forward.
Okay. Thank you. Maya, if you could answer?
Yep, sure. So I think I agree that the first thing that really is important, this would be my first time serving as well, and being on a board, and I think listening to the people who are the trustees that are already there and have been serving for several years, and the director as well, finding out what's currently being done to get communication out and to speak to the community is the first step to kind of really immerse myself and find out what's going on now, and then working with all of them based on their suggestions and finding out what's currently being done, evaluate that, bring up my own suggestions of ways to enhance whatever's currently being done, and then work with the director to make sure that that actually happens.
Okay, thank you. Linda?
Yes, we have so much valuable, so many valuable resources in our library that I would like to continue to work with the director in getting the word out. And I think one of the ways to do that is, of course, to try to get people into the library to see, but also to get some of our staff out, even if we're talking volunteers or library trustees, to go out into the different organizations and the different groups in our town and show the library and actually show some examples of what's out there, because there is so much. The library does everything. It does passports, it does notarizing, it has computers, it has so much information there for either working or leisure time. And I think it's not just, we put flyers out and we put PR out and we do emails and letters and newsletters, but I think also to go out and also into the schools and do that personal invitation to come and sort of tempt them, to see what's there.
Thank you, Linda. Maya, given that UMass Dartmouth and BCC are in Dartmouth's backyards, how can you help foster these relationships?
Yeah, I think that's very important, because I don't know too much about it, but I think there is a gap right there where the schools in the Dartmouth community can utilize the library at a better way. So I think it's very important to, as a trustee or working with the director, to go out there and speak with the representatives of these schools, find out what gap is there, what type of information, what resources they could utilize and use, explain all the wonderful resources that our library has, and where we can work with them.
Great. Mary Ann, could you answer that?
I know that the UMass Dartmouth has their own library, and maybe it'd be a collaboration between the two to offer each other information or technologies that are available between the two. Also, I'm not too familiar with the BCC aspect of it, but I think basically is all the three the three departments within those branches of those different libraries can work together to maybe something that is available to people at the BCC would be available to Dartmouth people, and just make it more of a collaboration between the three organizations rather than just one. Also, Dartmouth does have a lot of I just had a tour of the North Dartmouth Library, and I was amazed. I mean, I used the meeting room for an organization, but I had never been into the actual library. And it was just, it was wow. It was just different. All the different rooms, private rooms, the places where you could do private study, relaxation, where they had a little area for groups of, where people could meet, all the stations for the technology. I know there are a lot of students that maybe wouldn't like to stay at the school just because of safety reasons, going back and forth, and that maybe our system would be advantageous to them.
Okay. Thank you. Linda?
Yes, that's actually, I agree, and I'm just sort of adding on a little. I think the collaboration between the three would be excellent. I think making an effort to do that and find out what they're doing and what they have, and they can find out what we have and what we're doing, because there's got to be some feeding back and forth that would be good for both. But also there are, when I am in actually the North Branch, but actually in Southworth too, I do see college students sitting, and either they're meeting separately because we have small meeting rooms for studying or for gathering, and I do see that age, and I think perhaps a little more sort of communication from us to those schools, letting them know what exactly is there and how open it would be and how welcoming we would be for their students to come would be an excellent idea.
Okay. Linda, this question is for you that's been submitted. Well, it's not for you, it's for all of you, but if you could jump in. And it's a little specific. Why does the North End Library have different hours than the main South Library? Why is it closed on Fridays when perhaps it should be open, was the question submitted. Can you?
It's so easy, and I don't need a minute and a half. It's money. That's the reason why. It's unfortunate, and in fact, we're right now preparing the strategic plan, 5-year strategic plan, which is due in October to the state. And part of that is what we are looking at, I'm sure, in the future with focus groups and others to have more hours. I don't know of anybody who doesn't want it. They're closed on Fridays, if you're not aware, and they're not open every evening either. And it's hard to even remember some of their hours, and some of the hours, they're not open, as I said, in the evenings all the time, and so it's difficult. And the main reason really is financial. So that's something that has to be looked at, because it's a push from everybody who loves the library. It really should be open more, and if it were up to me, they'd both be open 7 days a week. So, but that's my answer.
Maya, do you have any thoughts on that question?
I think Linda answered the question exactly. I agree with her that it would be wonderful if the library could be open for longer hours, and that, especially that, at least to decrease confusion, to have two libraries have the exact same hours. At least that's a starting point, and then having it be open longer for more days, that would be the next step. I'm not too familiar. I know that there is this long-term plan that's in the works. So I think that's great that this will be looked at and see whether it can be fit into the budget.
Okay. Mary Ann, any thoughts?
To go along with both of those, I mean, money, funds to have these facilities open is a big thing. The only thing I could think of is maybe adjust some of the times to when the buildings are open, when there are more peak times. Is a Friday a better day to be open than, say, Tuesday? I know that the North Dartmouth Library has the school, Potter School, go in there. Is there a way to rearrange that so that maybe it could be open say, a 1 to 7 or something like that, as opposed to a 9 to 4 or a 9 to 5, just so that people, I know, I live in North Dartmouth. It's 15 minutes to get to Southworth. It's like 7 to get to North Dartmouth. So maybe, maybe to a certain extent, your people's perception of when they, I can't go to the library, because you have to go all across town to get to it. So maybe seeing when the most appropriate hours would be, if there's any way that you could adjust hours between the two, maybe make a couple of nights more available.
Okay.
For one, as opposed to the other.
I've got to pop in or they'll kill me. There was studies done. I shouldn't
Was
have
it?
been so flip. There were studies done that those were the peak hours, and so they did, the ones
Adjust
that go
them?
to the evening, and they did adjust them. They did studies for that. I'm sorry, I should have said that.
That's okay. Maya, did you have any rebuttal, or Marianne, any? Okay. All right, Marianne, I'll start with you. This is a very interesting question that was submitted. With an exponential growth in the internet and artificial intelligence, access to books and other literary resources are more widely available. What are your ideas about how libraries will remain relevant?
I think part of it maybe would be to have access to computers or that technology. I know now, I mean, we have multiple computers in our house, but several years ago, or when my kids were in school, we didn't have any. So that was a detriment to my family, because some of these other kids did have those, and we started because my son won a computer at his school. His teacher was upgrading her computer, and she put her computer in they drew hats for everybody that didn't have a computer, and he was lucky enough to get it. Now, this is a computer that had floppy disks. So that's, it's many, many, many years ago. And then, of course, with technology, they had to have computers to do their work. Maybe that's a way to bring attention to the fact that there is technology available. You may not have it at home. Maybe there's one computer shared between multiple children, so that maybe the libraries could promote that as being a place where children could go to do their studies and get their information or research or whatever they needed to do.
Great, thank you. Maya?
So I agree with Mary that one of the elements is that, there might still be families in the community that don't have access to technology. They might have more than one student or kid that needs to use a computer at the same time, and so they utilize the library. But in addition to that, a library is more than just computers and reading and online resources. All of that is extremely important, and the Dartmouth Library provides all of that and has a plethora of information. But in addition to that, the library is a public space that has gathering rooms where people can get together and can discuss different information, groups can get together. It's more than just technology. It's a place where there's programs, where people come in and have talks, you can hear music. There's a whole host of other things that a library serves the community. In addition, if you are looking for that online information, there's things where you come into a library and are just walking around the shelves, you might find information that you wouldn't otherwise have thought to Google on your own. So that's an additional element that a library adds. And then I think the last thing is also that as technology grows and it becomes more and more important, libraries are also evolving and continuing to add services to provide to the community. So, one thing is that libraries are starting to become an Internet of Things, where they are providing services to the community beyond just the reading materials. Some libraries, and I think the Dartmouth Library is thinking about this, is renting out different items. So renting out sports equipment, renting out tools. It's becoming it's a community space that is adding other elements to the residents of things that they need.
Okay, thank you. Linda?
I'm not sure what I can add to what Marianne and Maya said. I definitely think that the library does keep evolving. It is a community, as I said, it's a destination, and it's a destination that that is meant to be used, and it is a community treasure. And it will continue to do that. It will be updated. All of the information in that library will keep evolving, the same as perhaps AI grows. And there are many, many other reasons to come to that library, even if you're coming to be by yourself for some quiet time, read the paper, or you're just relaxing, and maybe you're listening. Maybe you're listening to information on earphones or something. It is a real spot that is important in people's lives, and I think it will continue to be that, and I don't think that it will ever go out of style.
Thank you, Linda. This will be the last question of the evening, and then we'll have you all do your closing statements. Maya, if you could answer this. Do you believe that libraries should be used more as a community center? And if so, how would you get more activity?
I don't think the word more is correct. I don't think it should be more community center than what it is, but it essentially, an element of a library is a community center. So that's one aspect that it provides, where people can get together and gather, and it is utilized by everyone within the public, not just certain segments. But then the library also does provide, it has all the online, it has books, it has reading materials, it has, it helps people get their passports. There's a whole host of things that a library provides, and will continue, and as I said before, evolving with what the needs are of the community. That's beyond just a community center.
Okay, thank you. Marianne,
I agree with a lot of what you said. I just would say that most important thing, I think, is to keep evolving with needs of community, whether it be, like she said before, being the source to rent out different materials, whether it be a book or a movie or a tool. Just to keep pace with what the community wants. I think that's the most important thing, is what do they need, and is it possible that we can provide for those needs?
thank you. Linda.
I have nothing. Everything's said. It's so good. I also feel that, as I said, it will keep growing. We have professional staff who are also keeping up and learning and learning new things, and we're listening to the community all the time, and seeing patrons and reviewing, and I think that it will continue to be, as I think, as Maya said, more than a community center. It will be a part of everybody's lives, and something that they just normally think and take into their daily life of what they're going to do. And when they think of, what do I need, or gee, how am I going to get that accomplished, the library comes out as one of their first thoughts. Gee, I bet the library can help me with that. And I think that's the way it's becoming, and it certainly is for many people already. As when you think that we've got all these little ones coming to the library in the baby times and the storybook reading, and learning right from the beginning and continuing through their school years. So,
okay, Linda, I'm going to ask if you could start us off with the closing, please.
I actually hadn't thought of a closing when I first this is also my first time running for an office, and I guess what I want to say is I do want to keep being a library trustee. I think it's important. I think I have something that I can give to it to help. That was my main goal, is if they could use me, that's what I'd like to do for my town. I guess the biggest thing is to say, please go to the library, use it, for heaven's sakes. It's part of your life, of your community and your town, and it really is a treasure. So just enjoy it, and I certainly would like your vote on April 2nd. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Maya.
All right. So I know that the trustees are losing two great members, Eileen and Stanley, who have been on the board for a long time, and they do a lot. So I recognize that these are big shoes to fill, but I believe I have the energy, the passion, and the skills to be a library trustee. As we've all stated, we have a wonderful public library. It's a great resource. We all should use it. I will help the trustees ensure that our library remains accessible, relevant, and useful to everyone in our community. So please vote for me either early or out at the polls on April 2nd.
Nice. Mary Ann.
Closing, I would just like to say, like these other ladies have said, the library is important. It has a plethora of information available. With everybody's help, it can be even better. Going into the future, as long as everybody utilizes the library, programs can evolve through people's desires, wants. I know it's wants and desires, that's always not always possible, but some of those ideas maybe can come to fruition because somebody may have not have thought of it or may have not have thought of it in a specific way that maybe they can be accessible.
Thank you. I'd like to give a round of applause to the three women voting for it. I wish you the best of luck. I would also like to state that there are town positions that are also not contested. Planning Board with Margaret Sweet. Board of Health, Richard Romero looks to replace Dr. Christian Pope. Boards and Parks and Recreation, Joan Brito, Sarah Freshman, Andrew D. Agostine. And then the Housing Authority is unopposed with Elaine Lancaster and Stephen Mello, Harbor Master, Sarah Haskell, Town Clerk. So to everybody who's running, thank you for volunteering your time and effort. For all of you who attended and stayed for the whole 2.5 hours, thank you so much. We certainly appreciate it. And again, I am going to shamelessly plug April 12th, our Rotary Comedy Show. Your participation in those type of activities allows us to bring programming to the town for the town of Dartmouth. So with that, I wish you all a great night and best of luck to our candidates. Thank you.